Hi, I'm Dr. Bertice Berry, and I want to tell you a story. It is by far one of the most difficult stories that I will ever tell. If you are triggered by stories of child abuse, you probably want to shut this off now. However, I want all of us to look at this story closely and to think deeply, to not respond with our automatic response, but to think deeply about it. I'm a mother of five, sometimes seven children, depending on who's counting. All my kids are adopted or came to me later through other circumstances. When my youngest daughter, who came at 3 months old, was about 10 years old, she had started to display some really negative behavior and it was escalating. I'd done everything I could think to do to help her, guide her to change that behavior, but it wasn't working. One of my family members heard about it and they said, "You know what to do." And I said, "What? Tell me." They said, "You got to beat her." And I had worked hard to not beat the kids. I had come up bearing the scars of those whippings. They're called whippings. And I decided that I wasn't going to do that. My family member was like, "Yeah, but it kept you out of prison." And at the same time, I was thinking, yes, and 99.9% people who were in prison were beat. But Fatima's behavior wasn't changing, and so I decided to try. I found the flimsiest belt that I could find, and when I raised it up in my hand, I closed my eyes and I began to cry, and I could hear my mother saying, "This hurts me more than it hurts you," and I understood why she said that. When I opened my eyes, Fatima was no longer there, and I had a vision of a little slave girl, a girl who had been enslaved, waiting to be beaten by her overseer. I blinked my eyes and Fatima was back, but I looked at my hand, and my hand was the gnarled, ugly, angry hand of that overseer. And I dropped that belt and I grabbed my baby and I held her in my arms and I said, "I'm sorry." And she said she was sorry. Whenever I have this conversation with friends who were raised like I was raised, they all say, "Yeah, but those beatings kept us safe. They were beating us so that the police wouldn't have to beat us. They were beating us so that we didn't turn out like everybody else." Several years back, I started the practice of reading the narratives of enslaved people during the season of Lent. I want to read their words, not what somebody else is writing about them, but what they said. And one of the most difficult things that I learned was that those same words that I've heard my mother say were said by those overseers and those enslavers. Those same words go outside to a 4-year-old child and get a switch off the tree, and it better be green, and bring it to me. That the child was sent to get their own weapon of torture. And then as they got older, those weapons became angrier and uglier and much more dangerous. Those same things that were said to them are said to us. And if there is any long lasting impact of this slavery, was that generations later, the children of the children of the children of those who have been enslaved would do the same thing to our own children. How powerful and ugly is this? I keep saying that if you live in a society where racism is systemic, none of us have escaped it. It seeps into the drinking water and the wells of all of us. And I would be incomplete if I only looked at how it affected my white and light brothers and sisters. I have to look at also at how it affected us and how we've participated in this. We all want our children to have the same respect and responsibility that we had with nothing. And now that we're giving them something, we want the same respect and responsibility. And we reach back for that old way of beating. One day I was yelling at my daughter, and my mother came in the room and said, "Shut up. Heish! Heish!" She began to cry. And I said, "Well, I got it from you." And she said, "That's the worst part. I was wrong. I got it from my mother, who got it from her mother, who got it from some ugly rapist." We can't continue to treat our children the way we were treated in the name of love. Because chastising a child or correcting a child from our own anger and our own ego is not love. It's the inheritance of this horrible system that we live under. We all have to do better. We all have to let go of some stuff. We all have to look again at what we got and where we got it from. Our children are beautiful lights, gifts given to us to hold up and to celebrate. And we have to get as creative as our ancestors did for our survival, with loving our children into their light. I really don't want to hear from white folks who say, "I got beat too." Because you were beat. Because your parents were beaten. And they were beaten because somebody in that family got some black in them. I do believe we're going to get there. I know it. I've seen it just like I saw that vision with my child. But we have to work harder at doing our part to love more deeply. Start with your children. I love you.